10, 9.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RxMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician, Chris Aceto, on this January 20th, 2020. Oh, that's pretty interesting. 1/20/2020.
Wow.
How's that? Martin Luther King's birthday, too.
Yeah, Lee Thompson's favorite holiday.
that was a good one. I don't even think I can have a good response to that. It was so good.
No, we'll just leave it at that and let people use their imagination.
Yeah. Oh boy! It's
because,
funny.
when not to beat a dead horse, but you remember Cedric was kicked out of the Brazil Arnold by Lee Thompson for missing the meeting when it wasn't because Lee had thought he missed the meeting in Germany where I was at, and it wasn't Cedric who had missed the meeting. It was someone else, but a lot of people look alike.
That's true. Yeah.
When they're black.
Lee Thompson's very repentive, though. He had been, I told you, he apologized to me a couple times.
I believe in repentance. I believe in repentance.
I do.
But it's not my I'm not the one you have to repent to.
It's always interesting how people repent and when they become find God after they've gotten, removed from their position of power. Isn't that interesting?
Well, I mean,
they go to jail, they go to, whenever they have to hit rock bottom, then they find God all of a sudden, and which is fine. I mean, whatever it takes.
That's how it does work, actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever it takes. But when they're in the midst of doing all the terrible things that they're doing, there's nothing wrong with it, right?
Yeah.
I just find that interesting. That's all.
No, you. That's how guidance comes when you hit the rock or the rock bottom. Then you just give it all up and say, "Uh-oh, shit has hit the fan. What else is there?"
Right. Some people legitimately do find a higher meaning in life and realize that they were a bunch of complete assholes. But other people say they have, but really haven't. I believe that he's legit.
That's called hypocrites.
Right.
But go ahead.
Yeah, because I think they just do that to make people think, oh, look, he really is remorseful. Let's give him another chance. I think that Lee really did find a higher meaning in his life, and I think he realizes that he was pretty fucked up by some of the stuff he did. But there are people out there that aren't.
Yeah, well, that's what that guy. That's what gives people a on the outside a doubtful impression of people who have quote found God, because they're like, oh God, I remember you when, and now you're still.
I see people that screwed up.
You're preaching that you're saying one thing and doing another.
There's people in our industry now who've gotten things have happened to, and they're in complete denial of it, and they're just living every day like, oh, there's nothing wrong. I didn't do anything wrong, And
of course.
I mean, it's crazy. And I'm like, these people they got to have something else terrible happen to them because they haven't learned. They haven't got that. Yeah. It hasn't sunk in yet that they they're in big trouble, And I hate to see that because you almost, it's like watching a movie and oh my God, the main character's it's going down the tubes. What is he doing? The
wisest people learn lessons from other people's mistakes.
Yeah. I saw an interview with my new friend Patrick Bet-David there, who he interviewed the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan.
Oh yeah,
the kid Jordan, whatever his name is.
Yes,
the real one.
Yeah,
and he was talking about all the the craziness that was going on when they were selling all those whatever illegally selling those stocks and making ridiculous amounts of money. And he said he's like, I could have gotten out of it. I could have really legitimized because we were really good salesmen. He's like, I fucked up. He said, he realized it. He just said, I don't know what got over me. I couldn't stop. It was like I was too into it and too addicted.
Well, that was like Madoff. Yeah. Bernie Madoff, right?
Luckily, I guess he cooperated, so that's why he got off. He was a rat, but And he wrote a book. It probably for his life, it probably worked out well. Madoff it obviously didn't work out well for him because he robbed somebody. I guess it wasn't any worse, really. I mean, Madoff just robbed people for a lot more money.
Yeah. Well, the irony, I think Madoff. Well, I know he was. I don't know what the title was. He was the president, I think, of like the NASDAQ exchange. I mean, he was like he was the president of the organization that supposed to, have the legitimacy in that realm.
Those are the people that you got to watch out for. Those people that are in those positions of
You
power.
got to watch out for everybody. Gosh, right?
When I watch stuff on TV, Amanda loves to watch these reality TV shows, and I see these families that they're too good to be true.
And they are.
And then you always see the scandal come out, like what's that silly 9 kids and counting or something? I don't know what the hell it is. She's one of these things. They're like the perfect religious family, and they don't believe in premarital sex, and all the kids have to have approval of the parents for to get married, and meanwhile the brother was sexually abusing the two sisters, his whole life. But they just kicked him off the show. They're like, oh, he's in therapy now.
It may hurt the ratings if they take the.
They actually had to change the name of the show. Then they had to. It was, but the parents knew. So the parents aren't really on the show that much anymore either. It's whenever I see the phoniness, I'm not going to mention the person, but I used to go out to dinner with this couple.
Give me their initials.
They were bodybuilders. No, I'm not going to say it. But they would hold hands. Like before they would go to the bathroom, they would kiss each other, and they would hold hands. And I'm thinking,
I missed you while you were
yes, I missed you. Right. I said, there's no way that this is it. And of course, it was a completely dysfunctional relationship, it turned out to be.
Was Amanda in the picture at that time?
No.
No, because she would have sussed him out and said, Dave, they're phonies.
I said it to whoever I was dating at the time, and they were like, of course, I got you're just not affectionate, that's all. I said, believe me, trust me, that's not normal, I said. Yeah. That's not normal. It's one thing when you've been first dating someone, all right, for a few weeks, you're in love, lovey-dovey. But when it's too phony like that. And
how many years in were they, Dave?
Like a couple years.
They have little nicknames before, she went to the bathroom besides a kiss.
It was just like they were acting out a movie role. It was.
Well, they were acting out a movie role.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was just no camera there filming it.
That's right. I saw. There's no bodybuilding action, yet, obviously, until the Arnold Classic. But I saw that they had the Arnold Strongman USA. This is a great thing that they're doing. The Arnold people. They're having the Arnold. It's like a qualifier for the Arnold Strongman Pro, and they had it at the Santa Monica Pier. Mm-hmm. Arnold was there, and all the top guys were there. And Martin's Lassise won the event, and he just won the World's Strongest Man, which I actually witnessed in person. It was here in Florida, not too far from my house, on the beach. That was in September, I think it was. We went, Amanda and I and Logan. And we had fun there, and I actually filmed it. It's actually on the RxMuscle website. But so Martins Lassise won this event, but it was a great idea because you live there. The Santa Monica Pier is so much fun.
Oh yeah, amusement park on
Isn't that a great idea to hold like a strongman there? It's almost like
it's nostalgic. Yeah. Nostalgic.
Arnold was it. I saw Sean Ray posted a picture of. With Arnold's son there, the one that he had with the maid, Joseph.
Yeah.
Diana, whatever.
Yeah.
Who looks just like Arnold, by the way.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah,
he cut his hair too.
But he looked like him just,
He cut his hair. He looks just like him now. He looks like a young Arnold, really. I think he wants to get into bodybuilding. That's from what I understand. He wants to compete.
I can help him, Dave. I'm not his doctor.
George has probably been calling him up.
Oh, for sure, 1,000 times.
Guru of the year. I will be guru of the year.
I will pay you.
Oh, I call Arnold all the time. We talk on the phone. I give him advice on his diet.
True. You can't make it up.
Yeah. I don't charge him. I just give him it. He asked me for advice because I am in medical school now, right?
Oh yeah.
Is he becoming a doctor now, an official doctor?
He is. Yeah.
I'm glad that George is healthy again, and the story is just returning.
So we're
anyway,
Santa Monica pair.
So Martin Latisse was, I always screw his name up because it's Martins Latisse. It's not Martin Latisse. It's Martins. I don't know. I guess that's how they pronounce it, but nice guy, really nice guy. By the way, I've interviewed him before. He is was the reigning world's strongest man. He actually won this event last year, and he was second at the Arnold. And he did beat Brian Shaw. Now, Brian Shaw, as we all know, is one of the biggest human beings of all time. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is he like? He's like 6'7", like 430 pounds.
He's crazy.
Martins is not that tall. He's not that big. He's strong, obviously. So it's impressive. It's an impressive win. And Martins was in third place going into that last event. So it was obviously a nail biter and very exciting. So it's funny. I would have rather have gone to that event, I think, than the Olympia. It probably was more exciting. The final straw, the final event there.
You know how the Arnold strongman competition, the crowd gets swept into it.
Arnold was there himself. Arnold gave out the trophy to him. How cool is that?
Yeah.
The final event was the Rogue Strongman sandbag load. So he won that. Anyway, so he'll be going into the Arnold Classic. Obviously, is one of the favorites, and they give a nice amount of cash away at that Arnold Classic Strongman. I mean, we watch it every year. We'll be there this year, thanks to. I'll be there, thanks to.
Oh, I didn't know you go.
Yes, I'm going to go. Chemical Warfare is our title sponsor, so we'll be going out there. I'm working on getting the rooms and everything like that. So you probably have a room already.
I got a room.
Remember the last time I went there? It was last year, actually. Chris and I were like...
I was like, what are you doing here, Dave?
We're in the same hotel. We didn't even know it.
One floor up from each other.
Yeah, because the funny thing is because Chris always gets a room, because you always get a room from your one of your, whoever you're helping for the thing. So I don't even bother to get Chris a room because I know he's going to be staying with someone or whatever or wherever. So I'm walking downstairs to get a cup of coffee, and who's at the coffee machine? I'm like, oh, what are you doing in this hotel? I figured Chris came here to meet someone or something like that. He's like, no, I'm in the hotel. And it was funny because the Arnold Classic people give us the rooms. Not give us the rooms. They get the room reservations for us because they block all the hotels out, and they just happen to put us in the same hotel. So that was fate right there. And that's my favorite hotel. You know that. I'm not mentioning the name of it anymore because I don't. Not that anyone can get in there anyway if they wanted to, but I don't want to jinx us. I love it because it's right across the street from the expo. Just walk right across.
Yeah. I heard that. I don't know if you heard.
What?
RxMuscle's Sid Faruqi. Is it true that he's the voice of the NBA, or the voice of the New York Knicks?
He did. He was the house announcer at a New York Knicks game last week. His first time doing the Knicks in Madison Square. Can you imagine Madison Square Garden? I mean, it doesn't get better than that. The New York Knicks. He's sitting courtside with a microphone announcing the whole, what's going on. He wasn't the TV announcer. He was the announcer at the game. So if anyone has ever gone to a basketball game, there's a guy who's announcing in the actual, Madison Square Garden what's going on. And that was Sid. So, I mean, I got to take my hat off the guy. I mean, first of all, he deserves it. He's a great announcer. He knows he's like Howard Cosell. He knows every sport, including bodybuilding. And he's got a photographic memory for all these statistics. And he's got a booming voice, even though you would never imagine it just looking at him. But he's got a great voice, especially on a microphone. And he was, I don't know if it's a regular gig yet. I think it was a one-timer, but I imagine that they'll probably...
I can't imagine I just can't imagine him doing it once and them saying, you know what, we didn't like it, go home and stay home. I mean, they're going to invite him back. The Arnold people probably should have him for the Arnold this year.
They should. Or if not this year, next year. I'm going to talk to Matt Lors because I think he'd be a great announcer.
Yeah, here's my resume. Iron Debate, the Knicks.
Next year. Yeah,
I moderate the Knicks game.
Right.
I mean, I do the play-by-play live at the Knicks game.
The house announcer for the Knicks.
Yeah.
New York Knicks, yeah.
And I do
how much
Iron
more do you need
Debate
than that?
when Lee Priest comes on with Boston Lloyd.
How much better can you do than that? Yeah, I think he'd be great. I really do. I think he'd do a great job. I know that Dan
What's going to
Sullivan.
happen is he's going to become a big deal, and a big deal than he already is, and you're not going to be able to afford him anymore.
I
Dave.
know. That's I always worry. I always create
Even
all
though-
these.
I tell you, how many people have you discovered? It's ridiculous.
I discover everyone, but he's very loyal to me, and we work really well together. And he's actually, his work ethic is probably just as good as mine, which is amazing, when you think about it, because he's always, it doesn't matter what time it is, I can always reach him, and he's usually telling me what to do. Dave, go do a video about this or that, and I love that because it inspires me, motivates me, takes me to a higher level, and that's what a great employee and a great friend and a great person that you can collaborate with on a creative basis is all about. I mean, if this radio show wouldn't be as great as it is if it wasn't for you and me and the chemistry we have here. So I mean, that's it. Only takes a couple of good people working together, and you have great content. I mean, you and I have a good chemistry with John Romano when we do our show. I have a great chemistry with Lee Priest. I'm able to bring out the best in Lee Priest. Obviously, he's not a regular. He's a guy who just does one show with us. But you and I can do an analysis of the fucking, the Mr. Long Island, and then go right to the Olympia and analyze that. And that's a special, you can't just make that up.
Well, I hope people don't think we're acting like with the chemistry, like the girl and the guy who are the perfect couple and turned out to be, axe murderers behind each other's backs.
What I love is the behind the scenes stories. We could do this all day long, but I like the real life people stories. Like, Chris has got this guy. He goes into the cleaners guy. Let's talk about him. Chris has got this cleaners he goes to get, and you could tell the story about why you were in the cleaners. The cleaners guy has been listening to the show probably since its inception. Yep. So much so that he actually came and took the Secrets of Becoming a Diet Guru course that I give. Which, by the way, I'm giving one this coming Saturday, the 25th of January, at my house here in Cape Coral. I think we have one seat open, so if you go to DavePalumbo.com and if you want to sign up for it. I just rewrote the Guru book. It's now went from 85 pages to 98 pages. It's amazing. I'm very happy with the final outcome, just to let you guys know. So if anyone wants to come, sign up. But anyway, he came to the Guru course, so he's a real RxMuscle, Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto, loyalist, I'd like to say.
Mm-hmm. He is. So
what were you doing in the bedbug place? I mean, what were you doing in the cleaners?
It's funny, in this, who he sees all the time too? Tony Atlas.
Oh, Tony goes in there too?
Yeah, Tony has his clothes done there.
That's
I see. Tony's name came up when I saw him at the cleaners, and Tony lives like 5 miles from me, and I'm just too busy to I always say oh, you know what, I'm going to go over there. I'll run into him here and there, and I'm like, oh, we got to get together. It's like we're 5 miles from each other.
I know. It's great. I want to get him at the TV
show.
He's
the best. He's got the all-time. No one has more stories and a crazier life than him. And no one's bigger at 60, whatever he is.
Yeah. You got to get him. You got to.
Yeah. Well, Rocky Johnson just died, right?
I saw that. The Rock's father just died. Yeah.
And the tag team partner was Tony.
Oh, that's right. They would tag team. You know what I was looking at the Rock's. I don't follow a lot of people, but I follow the Rock, and the guy's got 169 million followers on Instagram. Let me put that in perspective. That's more than the Kardashians. Okay. That's insane.
Yeah.
He might be the number one Instagram person of all time.
Google it, Dave. Use that special tool, Google, and find out who's number one. Who is number one right now?
I have to find it out. It's driving me crazy. I can't imagine anyone having
top
more.
Five. Give me a top five. And Roelly Winklaar's not in the top five.
I guarantee you Kim Kardashian's in there. I would say the Kylie Jenner, the sister who has who's the billionaire, she's definitely up there too. And I would think that you got The Rock and Kai Green. No, I'm just kidding. Kai Green is not in that.
Who's number one? You got to slow.
I think it's him.
Dial up.
I think it's him. I bet you. How many does Donald Trump have? He probably has a lot, right?
Well, his all Russian robots.
Cristiano Ronaldo, the soccer player, 197 million followers.
Excuse me. Let me throw it. Who was accused of rape and they didn't
Yeah,
They
you got
didn't
off.
ban
You
him
got
from
off.
playing soccer. They didn't ban him from playing soccer, but I don't want to go back to the Roden thing. But
That's right. That's right.
people are like, well, it's different. See, in soccer, you got you can't understand all the bullshit.
Ariana Grande, she has 171 million, and then The Rock is third. Oof, oof. So I was right. He's definitely up there. Selena Gomez for some reason has a lot. She's right under The Rock, and then Kylie Jenner, like I said, and Kim Kardashian. Those are the
I wonder why
next
Selena Gomez has so many.
I don't know. Young people. It's hard if you're older, like us, to have a good following on social media. You can't have the ridiculous, man. The kids make up the most of it. You got to have the kids,
Yeah. Maybe I'll get Selena Gomez and The Rock to tag me on something.
Yeah, there you go. If you want to get Kim Kardashian to plug something on her Instagram, it's $1 million.
Yeah, I'm
for
sure.
one post. One post.
Crazy, right?
Elise and I try to get Kim to do an ad for Twin.
Diet fuel. Diet fuel.
Oh shit. Vin Diesel's got 60 million. That's a lot.
Does he? Wow, that's surprising.
It's more than LeBron James, who's got 55 million. Interesting list. Marvel Entertainment has 44 million. I didn't even know they had an Instagram.
LeBron James is a big fan of Conor McGregor, who just won yesterday.
Yeah, it's funny. Someone sent me a link to the fight, an illegal link to the fight, and I clicked on it because I just saw the link pop up. I clicked on it and I it was a very fast fight. I saw the replay of it. So it was pretty impressive. I don't know how good, I don't really follow the MMA fighting anymore, so I don't really know how good the cowboy guy he beat is. Obviously, he wasn't the champ. He didn't get a belt out of it. But I will say one thing. Conor McGregor is in fucking awesome shape, the guy, right? He looks like he could do a men's physique show for sure. He's shredded.
Maybe we can get it set up.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to want to give up the $100 million he makes for a fight to do a fucking to pay to do a
maybe Sid can do the announcing at the next set. Sid would be great at MMA.
Yeah.
Wouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, who's got that all tied up? Joe Rogan.
Oh, that's
He's
right.
like he announced the whole thing. Then he was interviewing Conor at the end. It's funny. It's really kind of hard to interview. Conor McGregor is the kind of guy that just he's like Cedric. He just takes over the microphone.
Oh, of course. Give me that mic.
Yeah. He's not as eloquent as Cedric, but he's effective though. That's for sure.
So the bed bugs.
Oh yes, getting back to the beds. What were you doing in the cleaners?
Okay, so this lady. Of course, I went to Florida for like 3 weeks. So, you can't tell anyone because people just won't pay their rent.
Right.
So I get back and someone paid half their rent for December. So this is January. And this person's never late. So I text her and say, hey, you didn't pay rent. And she said, yeah, it's in a safe spot. Don't worry about it. But we're not paying it because we have bed bugs.
Oh boy.
And I so I send back my text. I said, well, don't take it the wrong way, or you can take it any way you want. It's only a 3-unit apartment building. It's an apartment building with 3 apartments.
Right.
And I've had it for like 12 years, and we have never had bed bugs until you moved in.
In that unit, right.
And so my responsibility is to treat. And to do a treatment. It sounds like cancer, right?
It's worse than cancer, right?
No, in cancer they don't call it radiation. When you go see the doctor, the doctor says treatment. Oh, I can hand treatment. Nobody, it doesn't scare you. Yeah. That's what my doctor told me. Oh, we do treatment.
I'm
treatment.
shocked they haven't
like vitamin C and like colonics or something.
I can't believe that they can't have some kind of sound therapy. They shoot sounds at it. And wait.
I said to my maintenance guy, you know what? If you want to get rich beyond your wildest dreams, we can go on Shark Tank. If we came up with like a spray that would just eliminate them for good.
Forget the spray. You got to be like the Pied Piper. We got to get someone who gets in there and plays a flute, and the fucking bed bugs follow them out and fucking off the cliff. That's what you need.
So the lady says to me, so she's not going to, hint, hint, I'm not paying.
Right.
And so I said, well, it's only my responsibility, blah, blah, blah. And so then she tries to threaten me with, you should let something.
She's got to tell everyone about it or something like that.
No, she said something about the school. I said, well, you know what? You're right. I should. I got look at. I'm writing it right now, Dave. Look, CALLCHOOL, school bed bugs. You can't see it because we don't do some. Circle it. Put it in highlighter. That's me writing my notes myself. So I said, you're right. I think I'll have to call the school and report your kids that they live in a bug bed infested because they probably won't let them into the school.
Right.
So because I'm doing what I need to do, which is treat, and the guy who does it, he does like the Hilton, he does like Holiday Inn.
Now, how do these people bring bed? Are they just filthy, or how do they bring bed bugs in?
Who knows? They sit somewhere, go somewhere, sleep somewhere, and is
it because they're filthy? Do you think or do you think it's just a bad luck? What do you think it is?
They're filthy.
Okay.
You can Google it. I'm so tired of this. Well, bed bugs is like syphilis. It doesn't discriminate between rich and poor, and bed bugs, they say, do not discriminate between people who are cluttery and messy and dirty, and and people who are organized. And well, they do, because they hide in messy, gross places.
Right. So
I tell the maintenance guy, I do this. I said, you know what? Because I threatened to call the school, which I never followed through.
First of all, you should have gotten, what's his name, Phil. The guy who used to live for you, you should hire him as your bed bug advisor. Send him in whenever anyone calls you and they got bed bugs. Send Phil in and let Phil assess the situation.
Yeah,
God damn it! I told you, Aceto, don't let these fuckers live here. That they're bringing the fucking bed bugs in from the people outside the window. They're drinking all night. God damn it! Don't let these fucking people live in their apartment. For God's sakes.
Isn't it funny that the government came up with like the drug czar? Like czar. Isn't that it's not a typical word that we use, Anyways.
So how do you clean up the bed bugs?
So, well, I thought you send a exterminator. So the exterminator says, Chris, the place is a mess. Ugh. They're never ready for me. So it's a mess. So I do this. I tell the lady, I said, she has 3 kids.
Right.
I thought I was doing something like, I just want to get rid of the bed bugs, really. So I tell the maintenance guy, drop everything tomorrow, go over at 9 a.m. She's going to have all her clothes bagged up. And you take them to Matt at the laundromat. And we'll pay him. We'll just tell him, you can pay the laundromat to wash and dry.
Now, why would the laundromat allow bags full of bed bugs?
Well, because when you wash them and dry them, they die in the heat, and they have the industrial strength dryers that get hot enough that they'll just die.
Okay.
So if they're enclosed, you wash them, dry them, then they're dead. Because if you go in and treat, and they're still like clothes in a drawer and the bed bugs are in the drawer,
right.
Well, you're not going to get at those bugs,
what about
right?
the couches and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, they dust around and under and this and that, but they don't go into like people's drawers and laundry and all that type of stuff.
You can get them out of like the upholstery of the couches and stuff like that?
You should be able to. Technically you can, yeah. When they cross the barrier, you know what I mean? When they cross the red line, they're supposed to like get the toxic DNP stuff on them and die. Who knows? So I send the guy over, 3 kids. I tell the lady, we'll pick up the clothes for you. We'll wash, we'll dry, we'll fold them and send them back to you same day. This maintenance guy never raises his voice to me. He sends me a text. Are you effing kidding me? ! He's got a pickup truck filled with trash bags, and that's their clothes.
Oh my God. They're like hoarders?
Wait a minute. He says, we're going to have to bring these and come back to get the second load of trash bags.
Oh, mackerel.
So I said, stop.
They must be sending the whole families.
It's going to cost me like $1,200 to wash the stuff, to have them wash and dry. So it was a snow day, so I took my oldest son over, and I reserved 18 washers and did 36 loads of. I mean, these aren't washers that you have in your house. They're like institutional size ones.
You did it yourself?
Yes.
Oh, you're out of your mind.
And so it was either that or spend the $1,200. I'm just so tired
Bed
of
bugs, though. You could have gotten the bed bugs in your own house. Are you kidding
well,
me?
what happened? We go through like when you come back from the moon and you gotta go in like the holding tank. I get in the car with my son and I scream.
I wouldn't even get in the car. Forget the car. The car.
Yeah.
You're gonna bring the bed bugs in your car.
No, but when we pull the car into the driveway and we get out, and I told my son, strip.
Yeah.
Here's the trash bag, and the clothes that we wore in the trash bag, and we're gonna bring them back to the cleaning place.
I would have thrown them out.
Wash our clothes.
Yeah.
But I sent you the picture of the clean clothes, right?
Yeah. The bed.
It was like I have 4 kids, and we've never had collectively in 16 years that amount of clothes.
It's crazy.
And you watch, they'll be back tomorrow because 2 bugs can make like 2 million.
So how do you get rid of them definitively? That's the question.
You have to treat and over-treat and treat and treat. You just douse the place with you have to douse the neighbor's apartment, so I have to go downstairs and do the first floor. And they say, we don't have bed bugs. I say, well, tough. We're going to do third floor. Oh, we don't have bed bugs. Well, tough. We got to do it because, if they move from, you don't need a visa.
That's enough.
From apartment to apartment when you're a bed bug.
The bed bug situation is enough for me never wanting to ever rent anything to anyone. Right there. That would get me out of the. You've convinced me that I never want to be a landlord again. Just because of bed bugs.
When someone says I got roaches are so easy to get rid of. It's a
bed
mice.
Bugs is like a plague. It's like a plague.
They are. So that's how I spent last week, midday. And I took the picture and we talked bodybuilding the whole time in the dry cleaners.
Oh, he loves it. Yeah, he's a really good guy too. Now, I'm sure it's me. I don't know if this is a good segue or not, but I don't think you can really segue any place after going from bed bugs. But I saw a video on Instagram of Roelly at a golf driving range, Roelly Winklaar, that is. Uh-huh. And he was hitting the ball, and obviously somewhere in South Florida. So he's obviously down here in Florida. Must be vacationing. As we know, he's not doing the Arnold Classic, sitting out, which I think is a good move on his part. He did a little video on that.
Okay, so I don't know why he's sitting out.
I think he's just burnt out, to tell you the truth. His body's not responding, obviously, or his brain is not responding, one of the two, because he obviously had looked terrible at the Arnold last year. He looked, pretty bad at the Olympia. And, we heard excuses and stuff like that. I think he just needed to take a break. I think his body just needed the time off. And I think doing this Arnold and coming in at not your best would have been a terrible...
He'd be done.
Yeah, he'd be done. I think he did the right thing, pulling out, give his body more rest. Hopefully it could be... one of two things could happen. It could be a great thing. His body rests up. He comes back. He looks great, right, when he competes at the end of the year. Or... he comes back at the end of the year, he looks the same and or worse, in which case he's done. Yeah.
What do you think?
He's got with all that muscle, unless he's got a health problem, which I don't think that's the issue. Unless he's got a health problem, I don't see why the guy can't get in shape. Other than maybe
he's in shape in the phony pictures.
I think that the problem is I think he's just a little shot. I think some guys just need more time. Look, Jay would realize that he was having trouble getting better, right? So he stopped doing the Arnold and he just did the Olympia until he won the Olympia. Really maybe at that stage. Look, you know what? Do a show at the end of the year, the Tampa show before the Olympia, and then do the Olympia. Maybe it's just too much on his body. Some guys just can't handle it. It's. Mm-hmm. It's a tough double. There's not many. That's why hasn't been that many guys that have won both the Arnold and the Olympia in the same year. Brandon did it last year, but he certainly was better at the Arnold than he was at the Olympia. Would you say?
Yeah, no, he was definitely better at the Arnold.
He was his best, I think, at the Arnold.
I agree with you
because he beat a very good William Bonac at that show, and it could have gone either way. Really,
Yeah.
We saw the best of those two at the Arnold, certainly not at the Olympia. Maybe it was because
It's funny. They were both better. You're right.
Right,
They were
just-
both markedly better.
too hard to peak for both shows. Although in what's his name's in Williams' defense, he was just as hard at the Olympia. He looked like too deflated, maybe too flat, whatever.
He was very small for him.
Yeah. So it's when you give 100% and you look your absolute best, earlier in the year, it's hard to come back and be just as good again. Ronnie Coleman couldn't do it, right? I mean, he won the Olympia those 2 years when he did the double, but he certainly wasn't his best. That's when Jay should have beat him.
Yeah, well, he did the that was 01 when
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He won the Arnold. He looked phenomenal, and he looked great at the Olympia. That was just Jay pulled the rabbit out of the hat. Well, it wasn't a rabbit out of the hat.
Jay stopped doing the Arnold and took the whole year to prepare for that show. Ronnie did both because he wanted to win the Hummer, which is fine. He was the first Mr. Olympia to ever go back and do the Arnold, which no one ever did that. Mm-hmm. And he won, but then when he came into 01 Olympia, he was just not as good. Something was off. I think his body was tired. I really believe that.
Yeah, he's probably right.
So,
you can have it's hard, regardless. It's hard to look exactly the same in 2 straight shows.
Right.
Meaning,
how many people have we seen do it? We've seen guys do the Night of Champions or New York Pro and then come back and do the Olympia and look really good. I mean, that's when Ronnie won in '98. But those shows are closer together. We've seen when Flex won the Arnold that year. What was that? 90.
Which one?
The first one. When he was
that was 93.
And then he placed second at the Olympia that year?
Yeah, he was phenomenal at both shows.
Yeah, but he was still better at the Arnold, but he was definitely good at those.
He was better at the Arnold, but I mean, what? In retrospect, yes, he was. I guess I don't know. I mean, Dorian was not at the Arnold, so it's like you were only as good as who you standing next to. He didn't have to stand next to. As great as he looked at both shows, and he was phenomenal.
So it's there's something to it, Jay obviously realized he tried. He won 3 Arnolds and he just wasn't, I guess, happy with the way he was coming into the Olympia. So he stopped doing the Olympia. So he stopped doing the Arnolds. No,
he was not. Actually, he was just he didn't want to. He wanted to be Mr. Olympia, not Mr. Arnold.
Right, but if he could have done both, I think he would. I think he realized if he was going to win the Olympia, he had to give 100% to just the Olympia.
Yeah.
Someone sent an email to me. I think you got the same email, basically saying that we used to do a segment on the show called Stump the Jumbo, where I guess viewers would ask questions. They would send you questions to ask me. It was that's how Ask Dave actually started, believe it or not. So you would ask me questions, and then we'd try to stump me question at the end.
On any topic.
Yeah, on any topic. And so this guy wanted us to bring it back, and he gives me the question. He's like, here's the first question. Now, you don't give the person you're trying to stump the question ahead of time, because otherwise you're not going to stump me. I'm going to look it up. But I actually knew the answer. But he wanted to know who won the 1994 Night of Champions, which now is called the New York Pro.
Let me take a guess.
Okay.
94.
Night of Champions.
It wasn't Mike Francois, was it?
Yeah, it was. You helped him.
Yeah. You want to know how much that dates me? It's funny. I was like 19th place in Guru of the Year, and we're talking about J 2001 Olympia and Mike Francois in 94. 94 Arnold, New York Pro. When he won that show, I used to.
Chicago, I think, was his pro debut the week before, right?
Yeah. I still, to some degree, do this, but not as much. I went to a payphone. Can you imagine?
Do they even have those anymore?
No. I went to a payphone in the restaurant right next door. What's the restaurant right next door? You eat there every...
I can't remember the name of it.
Not Mimi's, is it?
I don't remember.
And who do you think I called to say he won? See if I can stop. Oh, close. Keep going.
Jay was probably there.
No. How do you look?
Oh, Bob?
Bob. You always
that's
used
funny.
to tell Bob, like,
Bob didn't go to that. Bob wouldn't go to those shows, or was that when he was on the outs with those guys?
yeah, it was on the out, so he wouldn't go. But I would send him pictures. No, I would. No, I wouldn't send him pictures because Mike would mail FedEx pictures to me.
Right?
So
There was
I would
no
tell him,
cell phone pictures back then. Yeah.
I'd tell Bob, Mike Francois, and he'd follow him, I guess, and
Oh yeah. Good luck. Big pecs.
say congratulations, Chris. And I say I stole it all from you, Bob. Which was,
Here's the. Well, you would know this.
you want to know what's crazy? I remember now. Sorry, me and Mike stayed.
Where?
Someone gave us like you could walk to the venue in Manhattan.
Wow.
Well, right now, think about it. Think how
Where did they put the athletes? Didn't they put them in that
I
shitty
don't
hotel
know.
right
Shitty
above, like
hotel,
it was like right
yeah.
next door or something like that?
yes, pre-bed bugs. That probably hotel. I bet if you TripAdvisor it, it's probably filled with
I'm
bed bugs
sure.
now because of international travelers. But
Yeah.
New York in those days, '94, it wasn't some glamorous, glitzy city like it is now. There was still lots of parts of Manhattan that were, way cheaper, of course, than they are now.
Yeah.
But there were still places that, weren't the best places to live. Anyways, someone had given Mike the craziest, most massive, crazy, huge apartment for us to stay in.
Oh, you must have loved that.
Oh, you know that. You
must have been hunting real estate. That unfortunately you couldn't look it up online back then.
Exactly. You have to go to a broker, and they like little sneaky bastards wouldn't let you know. Anyways, the place was off the charts. I'm talking like Manhattan, like 3,500 square feet.
Wow.
What's that cost?
Millions.
We had a great time because one, we get to stay in a great place.
Whose
and then
apartment was it?
It was someone. Jay would know the guy.
Of course, Jay would know.
If I colon, I came out colon. Jay's got such a trap mind. If you had him on, if you called him up right now,
You should text him.
and
Text him.
I'm gonna.
Text him. See if he comes up with the name. He'll probably give you the whole history.
I'm gonna. Okay.
Well,
I got
while you're doing it, the great thing about the victory, and I remember because I was there, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion about the whole thing. He beat Nasser Elsonbaty. This is when Nasser first made the biggest impression that people were like, where did this fucking guy come from?
Yeah, he looked crazy.
Right? He had competed at Night of Champions, I believe, in '92 and '91. He just never looked good. Like, this was like the crazy Nasser. Like, after Milos put 100 pounds on him, and like,
No. It's before he met Milos. No.
He looked good though. He looked amazing. I really thought, along with probably most of the New York fans, that Nasser should have won the show, and I'm going to tell you why. Because Mike was good, and Mike was probably a little, he had all the body parts. I didn't think he was as hard as probably I wanted to see him for that show.
Well, he was harder the week before in Chicago.
He was better in Chicago, and then when he did the Arnold and won the Arnold the year after, he was amazing too. He looked a little off to me, so I thought, you know what? If I was judging from the audience, at least, I had Nasser winning. But I think he had that momentum coming off Chicago, and it was kind of his two pro debuts at the Chicago Night of Champions. And I think that Nasser, back then, the European guys just didn't sometimes get the best crack,
look.
The best look. And obviously, second was still great, but I thought it was a controversial win. But I thought it was
controversial.
Very, very great battle between the two of those guys.
Yeah, it was controversial. And you know what's so funny? The entire time, Dave, I got a backstage pass somehow.
Wow.
And the entire time, there was like a curtain. And it was like me and Mike on one side, and then on the other side of the curtain was like all the other competitors.
Right.
Whose voice could you hear just like non-stop talking?
Nasser?
Oh, God, of course. And, I said...
Bad-mouthing people or what?
No, just
complaining?
Just holding court with this bullshit,
Well, he probably was. He knew he looked good, so everyone was telling him how great he looked. He probably was in heaven.
Oh yeah, he was. He looked great. One of his very best all-time best looks. His waist was so small back then.
Yeah. And
his waist was so small.
He was freaky looking. He was freaky big, too.
Yeah.
You had to be a little nervous about him. I'm sure going in there.
Well, put it this way. I knew 1,000% Mike was going to win because I knew that they'd do this. I knew. I always know. I in those days I would know because they would say, "Who was Mr. Olympia?"
Dorian.
Backzilla. And who has the best back next to Dorian at that point, outside of Flex Wheeler?
Yeah, Mike had a good back.
Mike had the crazy back lat spread and the back double, so they'd say, it came down to the back.
I'm sure Nasser probably complained about that for the whole year, until the following year when he won again. Huh? Mike Francois, I was much harder than he was, and he has a big waist, and I outposed him, and he he only has a back, and he is like Dorian. We called him Backzilla too. And
You want to know what Mike? So Mike takes this holiday. I'm gonna go take a holiday. My first holiday. And wait, no. Got it wrong. The week after that, so he's coming off 2 wins, first 2 pro shows.
Yeah.
Mike goes out to Hawaii to guest post, but you can't wait to go. He's going to take his wife, and I think he's never been to Hawaii, and how beautiful is Hawaii when you've never been.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think the only thing Mike knows about Hawaii, knows it from, is like the Brady Bunch episodes. So Mike gets out there, and he's eating breakfast in the hotel. And whose voice does he hear?
Don't tell me Nasser's out there. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's staying at the same hotel.
for what reason?
Nasser's out there for a holiday.
Are you serious? Did they become friends?
Nasser, Nasser
Or
put the
phony friends, yeah, phony friends.
That's right.
Nasser just probably asked him a million questions about drugs and what drugs he was taking, right?
Dave, you got it.
I know Nasser.
You got it.
What are you taking insulin? How much GH are you taking? When do you take the GH shots?
Slower and with the little, Dave, Mike.
Yeah, not like, oh, by the way, what are you doing here in Hawaii? Are you going to have fun? Are you taking the family to go to see the volcano? When you take your GH, do you take it in the morning or do you take it before bed?
You were lying. You're not telling me the truth.
Mike, come on. Let me see your book. You have a training journal?
So
Mike's probably like, I don't really take that much GH. I only take 2. I take 3 IUs a day. I do not believe that, Mike. I know you have taken probably 6 to 8 IUs a day. Do you take it every day, or do you take it every other day?
So Mike calls me up from a landline, and he said, "You are not going to believe who I ran into today."
Right.
I'm like, "No, I'm not." And that's not even like something Mike would. He just doesn't talk much, and I'm like, "Who?" He said, "Nasser." I'm like, "I thought you were in Hawaii."
You're holding out on me. You never told me this story.
And he said, "You know what? Oh, what's even funnier is he said Nasser was like 60. It was a week later. Nasser was up like 60 pounds.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably was like 320 by then.
Yeah. He said he's the biggest human being he ever seen after a week after the show. Next to Kovacs, actually.
Was Nasser there with any other people, like a girl?
His wife.
His wife. Okay.
Visra.
Yeah. That's funny. Did they train at all?
Yeah, they trained together. They trained together all week, and it gets better. So that forthcoming Olympia, which coming up, Nasser comes from Germany the week out to spend with Mike.
Oh, really? Oh, they got that close, huh?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Nasser ends up 7th.
I remember, yeah.
And the reason I remember 7th, other than I remember that 7th, is because Mike, maybe say 2 weeks with Mike. And Mike don't know. He's like, well, this is what Mike told me 2 weeks out. I think he can win. I'm like, what? He's like, I think he no lower than 3rd. Disaster would be 3rd.
How come Mike wasn't in the Olympia?
I can't remember. I think it might have been I don't remember that year. I just remember.
I think he just skipped it because he thought he wasn't ready or something like that, right? He wanted to win the Arnold, right? Isn't that what his goal was?
Oh yeah, on his 30th birthday, which he did. So Nasser, he said, the last 2 weeks just disintegrated.
Oh, really?
He said he was so big and hard when he got out there 2 weeks out.
He overdid.
And then, I don't know, because Mike said, I don't know what he did, take this, that. He just stayed at my house. And And at some point he thought, gosh, it's getting kind of small. But Mike was thinking, he must know, and he must gonna like correct it or like carb up or something.
Right. The breakout year for Nasser was the next year, '95. I think that's when he figured out he had to be bigger and stuff like that, and that's when he won.
That's when Milos
helped him.
Yeah,
that's when he won Night of Champions. He was third at the Olympia. He was like second and third at all those Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then '96 he had a good year too. That's when he won the. Did he win the Arnold? When did he win the Arnold? Oh, he won the Arnold.
Late '99, I think, or '98.
Oh, that's right. It was '99. He was like second, like a couple years in a row, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then he was in that Olympia. That he
got disqualified, didn't he? One year, the year that Jay got to keep his money and Nasser did.
Maybe at the Olympia, but that you want to know what's funny about that, Arnold, or
didn't him and Jay fail the drug test, something like that at the Olympia?
No, not Jay. Jay.
Oh, what was
Jay did no one. Jay did no one.
Oh, okay.
NASA did in '97, I think.
Okay, '96.
You ask Sean. Sean will document all those because he thinks he should have all their money.
Well, he failed also. He lost it all.
Yeah, of course he did. So, see, I had a good. What were we talking about? The Olympia that year, or
we're talking about Nasser, Mike.
I had a great point about the Olympia that year.
Oh, in what year? '95.
I don't know. '95. Forget what the hell I was going to say.
Nasser was third that year in '95. That was when Lavroni looked amazing. He was second.
In '95. Yeah.
We were talking about the '94 Olympias, which he said Nasser overdieted for. That's when Sean actually was second.
Yeah, and then Milos, blew him up like 40 pounds, and then '95 Olympia. Yep, me and the '95 Olympia is.
Let's get back to the Night of Champions. Let's get back to the Night of Champions for a minute, because the '94 Night of Champions was won by Mike. It was a close battle between him and Nasser. Interestingly, I competed. I was helping these guys do their first show for '94. It was like the Amateur Grand Prix. It was called. It was in the Bronx, New York. Okay, right where my father grew up and where I was. I would actually live for a year. Later, actually earlier, I had lived there for a year back in 1991. So it was like kind of like my old stomping grounds. So I was helping these guys, and I was looking in the mirror. I had competed like 2 months earlier, and I'm like, I look fucking pretty damn good. I'm better than all these guys that I'm helping. I'm like, maybe I should jump in the show. It was like the only time I ever did that. So I jumped in the show, and I won the show, the overall. And at the show, the guest poser was Mike Quinn. And Mike looked fucking nuts at the guest pose. I'm like, Mike,
he looked tremendous. That's the best he's ever looked at.
I said, I haven't seen you look this good in so long. What the fuck you doing? He's like, I got my life together. Everything's clicking right. He looked like he was whacked, though. I'm sure I think he'll confirm that he was probably like on a ton of cocaine or something like that. But he was in shape. He was absolutely in shape. I said, Mike, you're going to do really good at Night of Champions. It was like the week later.
That was the best he's ever looked, if you ask me.
Yeah, he was top 5. And back then, top 5 Night of Champions went to the Olympia. So that was huge. So Mike and Nasser were first, too. But then, third was John Sherman. A lot of people forget how good John Sherman was.
John Sherman was tremendous.
Back in the early 90s. He was amazing. He's he promotes shows out in Texas now. But John Sherman was short, but he was
round as hell.
Oh, my God.
And hard.
Yeah. He would have been a great 212 guy.
He would have been a great open. He didn't stick with it. But go ahead.
Yeah. And then Al Q Gurley was fourth. A lot of people don't know who Al Q was. I kind of became friends with him because I actually did when I was on that Batman movie, I've told you about. Yeah. Al Q is one of the actors who was one of the bodybuilders who was on the movie set with me. So I spent a lot of time. I spent the whole 7 to 10 days with him, I think it was. And remember, when I was doing the Batman movie, it was like we would get there at 6 at night and we wouldn't leave till 6 in the morning. So it was like you spent the whole night with these people, And Al Q wanted to be an actor. He thought he was going to transition into acting from doing that little thing, which never happened. Yeah, it never happened. He could have. He was a good-looking guy. I don't know, what why he didn't make it. Maybe he just wasn't a good actor, but. So it was John Sherman third, Al Q Gurley fourth, and then Mike Quinn fifth. And that was a solid top 5 at that Night of Champions.
Yeah.
And to tell you how solid it was, Johnny Morant was sixth. Darryl Stafford, who's no longer with us. Actually, I think Johnny Morant? No, is he still with us? Yeah, he is. Darryl Stafford was 7th. David Dirth, who's no longer with us, also 8th. Henderson Thorne, 9th. Did he die, Henderson Thorne?
No, he looked tremendous back in the day.
I can't even remember who's. Ian Harrison, who I've had on the show, 10th. Terry Pastel, who was great, was 11th. Lee Priest was 12th at this show. That's how good this lineup was. And Jimmy Quinn was 13th.
I wonder how he ended up 12th.
I don't know. This might have been before he really, was his best. Gaspari was in this lineup, but he was making a comeback, if you remember. He didn't even place.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah. It was a good show. I remember this. I remember the Night of Champions. This Night of Champions was a very memorable Night of Champions for me. I remember details, and I don't remember much of anything anymore, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So, anyways, I remembered what I was going to say about Nasser. The story. When Nasser won the Arnold, Jay was in it, and I was backstage for that. Imagine, look at all these shows I was backstage for. And I remember this, Dave, about that show was Nasser won it. I
don't think he deserved to win that show, by the way.
No, I agree. It's funny that you say that.
You were always bad-mouthing me? Thank you.
No, because there's Arnold's he should have won, ironically.
He should have won the Olympia in 97.
And this one he should not have won. So the one that he did win, I was backstage, and, it just, there was nobody.
Lavroni didn't look that good. He was second.
Nobody wanted to be hanging with Nasser, the winner. That's what I remember about that show.
No one wanted to what?
Hang.
Like hang out?
Hang out. I mean, you're winning the show. The other competitors.
Are you saying no one liked Nasser? Is that what you're trying to say?
They didn't like him.
Jay was 4th that year. I see.
Yeah, Joe was 4th that year.
That was when he first started his rise, I guess, up the ranks. It was a really good lineup, but if you look at on paper, I don't remember how anyone looked. I just remember Nasser in my mind wasn't the winner. Lavroni was 2nd, Cormier was 3rd, Jay was 4th, Milos was 5th, Vince Taylor was 6th. Vince was still really good back then. Dexter was 7th. How funny is that? Dexter was competing in 99 Arnold Classic. Darren Charles 8th, Gunther Schlickkamp 9th, Al Q. Gurley was 10th. Don Long was in that lineup. Don Long was 12th.
Pretty impressive lineup, huh?
Renel Janvier 13th. How about that?
What place was Lee Priest there?
He wasn't in the show, but if you can come up with who was 15th, I will give you like $100.
15th was maybe Pavel Jablanicki.
Roland Kickinger.
Oh my goodness!
That was an Arnold invite. That was an Arnold, throw him a bone type of thing. Does anyone even know who Roland Kickinger is anymore?
They don't even know who Gaspari is.
No, that's true.
They only know who Selena Gomez is and Kylie Jenner and The Rock.
Roland Kickinger was like an Arnold lookalike. They were building him as he really did look a lot like Arnold.
Facially, right?
Oh my God. Facially.
With the gap tooth.
Yeah. But he had a physique similar to Arnold's too.
Yep.
And they would, the magazines were all pumping him up and everything like that. He had a lot of hype. He probably made a lot of money. He actually became an actor, and he had a couple roles. He had a regular role on that on that Howard Stern. Remember Howard Stern used to produce that show called The Son of the Beach?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes.
He was a regular on that, and then he actually got a role playing Arnold in the Arnold movie. Because he actually sounded like Arnold too. That was the thing too.
That's what I said. Facially, he looked like they were from the same town.
I know, from Austria. Yeah, it was crazy. I actually became friends with Roland Kickinger. I'm going to tell you how, because they had contacted me. They wanted me to help him. He was, trying to put size on and everything like that, and he was representing a clothing line that I was also. And literally, the guy who owned the clothing line lived seriously like 2 miles from my house in Seaford, Long Island. So he was bringing Roland in to do some photos, okay, for this thing. Actually, he shot me and Roland, and they did a commercial because they were the sponsors of ECW Wrestling, that Extreme Championship Wrestling. Mm-hmm. And Roland couldn't speak English well. So I wound up doing the commercial. They had me in the commercial doing all the speaking parts and they aired it on that Extreme Championship Wrestling for like a year or two, which was embarrassing because he was the pro and everything. I was big. I was probably, just as big. I was probably bigger than he was, but he was, he had they were using him because of the whole Arnold thing, but he couldn't do the commercial. So I actually did, but we became friends, and this guy, Tony Trapani, who owned the company, Hardcore Clothing, actually threw this crazy lobster dinner at his house. He probably spent $1,000 on lobsters. They were like 5-pound lobsters. They were the biggest lobsters I'd ever seen. Mm-hmm. And I spent the whole night. We were there the whole night eating dinner with him and his girlfriend, and hearing all the stories about when he came over. He was a super nice guy. I enjoyed it, and even to this day, when we see each other at the Arnold, or that's usually when we run into each other at the Arnold Classic. He's out there promoting something, or at the Olympia. We have that commonality. It's always like an acknowledgement. I can sit and talk to him for 20 minutes or so, and we could see, catch up on what you're doing and what I'm doing, that kind of thing. He's just a class guy. He's a classy guy. But Roland was he just wasn't of the caliber of these other guys. But they were trying to pump him up because he looked so much like Arnold. I don't even know. He might have been a good classic bodybuilder. I don't know if he would have fit into the weight class, but he could have been a classic guy.
Yeah, he probably could have been.
He looks more like what's his name, that Wesley Vissers guy. How they always try to compare Wesley Vissers with Arnold. Him and Wesley kind of look similar, physique wise.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny, huh?
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of gossip coming out of this show of our knowledge of the bodybuilding.
There's nothing else going on.
No, I know. Did you see I interviewed, speaking of bodybuilding history, did you see I interviewed Clarence Bass?
I did see that you interviewed Clarence Bass, and you were going through the Night of Champions lineup and who's alive and who's not. I didn't know he was still alive.
Clarence Bass. What's your recollection of Clarence Bass? What do you?
Clarence Bass is he a lawyer?
He was a lawyer, yes.
And he's a friend of Joe's, Joe Weider. So Joe used to give him free ads in the magazine, and he would sell his book Ripped.
Right. He wrote a column basically.
Yeah, and he would eat like 700 calories a day to get ripped.
But
I read the diet. It was like the breakfast was like a tablespoon of like granola mixed with a tablespoon of like nuts with a tablespoon of raisins and like 3 ounces of milk.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I read this when I was like a kid and thinking like, oh, I can't do that.
He was shredded though. He was real. He wasn't big, but he was shredded.
Yeah, he was shredded.
The funny thing is,
How did you get Clarence Bass on the show?
I don't know.
Did you know he was very good friends with Joe Weider? You should have.
Well, he told me. Well, he told me the story. The story was that he really didn't know Joe Weider. He submitted a column. He had written a book. I think one of the first Rip books or whatever, and he submitted the book. And I guess at the time, Rick Wayne, I think he said was the editor in chief, and Rick read the book and said, "Oh, this is really good," and showed it to Joe. And Joe said, "You want to write a column for me?" Because I guess Joe was looking for people who had knowledge on nutrition. He was like a Ron Norman, type of guy. Ron is like an accountant and just knows a lot about nutrition. That was a Clarence. Like he just was passionate about diet and nutrition and training. He was obsessed with it, but he wasn't big or anything like that. But he knew how to get in shape, because he was a nutcase in terms of focus. And if you look at the pictures of him at 84, he's still freaking ripped. He walks around shredded all the time, and he doesn't take any hormone replacement, nothing. Guy's unbelievable. But that just goes to show you, if you live that kind of really dedicated lifestyle to the whole working out, eating right, you're going to look good and you're going to live a long time. If you look at Clarence's website, he's posted pictures, every 10 years of himself. He's unbelievable. He really is. I hope I'm that lean and that looked that good.
Yeah, well, that's why I said he's 84. No offense, but I'm like surprised he's still alive.
Yeah, me too.
Only because he was older when he used to write those columns.
Yeah, he was in his 40s.
Years ago.
Yeah, his claim to fame was he won like the Masters 40 and over or something like that at some, I don't know what organization or whatever it was, but he had a column, and when you had a column in people don't realize this, when you had a column in a magazine back then, that was validation that you were an expert.
Yeah.
And there was no internet. There was no bro science. There was none of these jerk-offs on Instagram who are trying to sell peptides to you, who say, "Oh, I'm holding, I'm going to educate you guys." No, if you had a column, if Joe Weider read what you wrote and interviewed you and realized that you were an expert and that you knew something about nutrition that maybe other people didn't know, he would give you a column, okay, and that would be the stamp of approval that what you wrote, okay, and what was he published in that magazine was the truth. So we all, as young kids reading this magazine, you might not have said, well, Clarence was huge or anything like that, but you read the column and said, all right, he must know something, right? Because Joe Weider's giving him a column, and he had a column in there for a long time. And I never bought those books, the ripped books. I'm sure a lot of people probably did, though. Right?
I'm sure he sold thousands.
You'd send in your check or money order to Clarence Pass with the little
Enterprises.
You'd have to cut out the little.
You want to know where his PO box was?
Where?
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
That's where he lived. Yeah.
Isn't that funny? I can remember that.
He still lives there. So you probably read the magazine.
Because I had nothing to do.
Right?
I told you last week. I used to read the magazine, study them.
He still lives in Albuquerque.
I told you last week, I'd study the baseball cards, and once I sold those at the garage sale, I went to Bodybuilding magazines.
Anyway, it was a really good interview. I had fun interviewing him, and he's an interesting guy. And it was like nostalgic for me almost, because I, like you, read those magazines, and I remember seeing his column. I'll have to admit, I didn't always read his column first. It might have been like maybe one of the last priorities on the list, but I always got around to reading his column because I had 30 days, to read that whole magazine, which certainly probably only took me 7 to 10 days.
You get pissed right? You'd be pissed after 7 days that you'd had it all read.
Yeah. So I'd reread it.
Nothing else new to read.
I'd reread it a couple times, and then when the magazine was read 3 or 4 times, then I would start reading the ads in there. And
did you read the masthead?
I read everything. I knew everything. You knew everything. It was like, that's why everyone was every person involved in that magazine, from I knew who the people who were getting advertisings, the advertising executives were. You knew it because you read every word of the magazine. It was like the Bible. It was like gospel. It was like going to church. You go to church, you read the passage of the Bible.
Let's see this. Let's see if I can stump the jumbo. First 5 pages of Muscle and Fitness. Who was the full page ad all the time?
Oh, I don't remember. Back in when? What years?
Like maybe 90s or 80s, 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
It wasn't Joe's products, the Victory line?
No. Joe would give this guy a free ad. Full page. Beautiful ad.
Really? It wasn't Cardillo, was it?
No.
Oh, I don't remember.
The Bosley hair replacement guy.
Oh, really? Oh, I know that he had ads in there. Was it the first page of the magazine, though?
It was like, you'd open it up and it'd be like the first few pages, like on the first.
I know he had something because he actually used Joe in the ads, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bosley and him were tight. They must have given Joe a lot of money, probably. I'm sure of it. If Joe was using his own picture in the ad.
Well, Joe's hair was probably better than Jay's.
Yeah, Joe had good hair.
I mean, he had tons and tons of it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Who was the back page of Muscle and Fitness?
I mean, the back cover or the back page?
Cover. Remember on the back of the magazine, they would have an ad there. That had to be super expensive, I would assume.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, a fortune.
I can't remember who it was.
Do you know what was at the peak MD ad, full page?
I don't remember. I don't know what they were charging.
I'll tell you at Muscle and Fitness.
It was $12,000 a month, right?
No, one-time ad. Do you want to place an ad?
15,000.
33.
33,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Really? For what? For a regular page or just for?
For a full page of Muscle and Fitness.
Because I knew Muscle and Fitness was more than Flex because they had a bigger readership. But
because Joe used to give me a free page, right?
Right. Did you sell it?
No. He told me you can't sell it because a lot of it's funny that you bring that up because some bodybuilders, Joe would say, "I'll give you a contract. What are you going to give me? I'll give you an ad in the magazine." And people would say, "I don't have. What am I going to do with an ad?" Joe would allow people to go sell it to like Automix for like a discount.
Yep.
18 grand and say, just send me the ad and I'll put it in. You get the money from them.
Yep. Smart. Very smart, by Joe.
And so he used to send me an invoice, and the invoice would be like, what's it? What do you get at the end of the year? W-9, 1099?
1099.
He'd send me a 1099 for like, whatever. It was like $300,000.
Oh, so you had to pay taxes on that?
No, because it's like it's a wash. He would send me like the 1099, but then
then you what? You don't pay it?
No, because the value of it is, it's like a swap. You say the work I created back to you was worth $300,000.
That's implying that you got income from that. You have to pay taxes on that.
I don't know. I had my accountant handle it. I'll probably get tax bill tomorrow.
He's going to get audited now. He owes $100,000, from 19 to 90.
Maybe it wasn't a 1099. Maybe he'd just get, at the end of the month, he would send me like because he'd send me a
zeroed out invoice or something like that.
Yeah, but he'd have the actual ad.
Well, the ad, you'd have a zero ad probably, like you're getting for free, like you paid, but you really didn't pay. He probably was reporting to the IRS that you were that you were being paid. You just didn't know it, and you were young enough that you got away with it.
I was thinking of his office the other day. Actually, we've talked about that before. But what's unfortunate about that office? What is unfortunate?
That it's not there anymore.
No, that it's not only there, but nobody documented it.
No, that's
you don't see pictures of it. You don't see.
He didn't let people, or it's just no one did it.
People were so effing intimidated when they came to see Joe Weider. It's like going to see the president of the United States.
First of all, it was probably one of the nicest offices I've ever seen. Right?
It was the office that you would expect that like a hedge fund was being run there.
Right. Well, they were making a lot of money there.
Or like the national office of Toyota Motors, or Johnson & Johnson national office.
Isn't it sad though that Joe sold the magazine, and it wasn't that the people who bought AMI, the magazine, ran it into the ground. That's not the case. The magazines just became less important. And because who would have thought that, right? Who would have thought that magazines would have disappeared? Essentially disappeared.
Joe, dude.
You think he knew that? He saw the writing on the wall?
He sold it. Do you know? You have to be the luckiest human being.
You don't think he just got old and that's why he wanted to sell it?
I don't know.
I think he just got lucky.
Absolute valuation, peak of peaks.
I know. I think he just got lucky. Unless he was just that brilliant. I don't think he saw the internet coming. Because Joe didn't really even have a website, really. I just think he just got lucky. He sold it at the right time. He's like, you know what? I'm older now. I don't want I got to cash out at some point. Maybe these AMI had expressed interest in it, and he said, all right, let's do it. Let's do the deal.
The level of cleanliness in that building.
Oh, it was amazing, right?
Yeah. Also, everyone whispered.
Yeah, there was never loud in there, except when Samir would come there and get into a fight with Arnold. With Joe.
There was if you went to see people who worked for the magazine, whether it be Peter McGuff or Rosenfeld, or if whoever was up there.
What's his name? Steve Weinstrom.
To whisper like this in the cubicles.
Yeah.
Nobody would talk loud at all. They talk like this. I don't know if it was Joe wanted it quiet. It was like the quietest work environment, which made it all seem so not secretive but important. It
had to be great to work there, I would think, right?
Oh, I'm sure people who worked there must have just loved it.
And I'm sure people were making decent money there, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course they're making decent money. Everyone was making good money there. Everyone. And Joe took not only that, but people who. People, it's funny, people who worked for Joe closely loved his ass, man. You know what I mean? Because he was like a lunatic. You know what I mean? He was like, a multi-millionaire, radical, successful person.
Right.
And just, you know what? If you said the bank is on the line and Samir is on the line, He'd take Samir's call. Of course he would. Or, Gary Strider was on the line. The banker's been, Joe, you have a 9 o'clock appointment. You haven't, the banker's been out here for 4 hours. Joe would say, well, I'm trying to choose the cover for the next issue.
Yeah.
You know what, Joe's so crazy. He would tell the banker,
I know,
that he has to wait because I'm choosing the cover for the next issue.
Well, working for Blackman was similar to that. I mean, I couldn't go in every day because Steve would talk to me the whole time, and I couldn't get enough work done. I'd have to stay till 8 o'clock at night. But I think he wanted that similar environment, although the office that he had was not even close to what Joe had. But I gotta say, I like working in an environment where everyone has the same passions and the same likes and is enthusiastic, and it's nice to have a boss who actually loves what he's doing. I mean, Blackman loved the whole bodybuilding thing, obviously, just as much as Joe did. So it was a good environment to create and to make stuff, and that's why with MD, I when I was working for them for that 3 years full time, I mean, we created that website. I mean, there was a lot of creation going on there, the Arnold booths and the Olympia coverage and everything we did, and so that was later. That was once the internet started. I have to imagine when Joe was doing what he was doing with the magazine, there was no competition. It was just, what could we make that's better than before? Who are we going to cover? Who's the newest talent? I'm sure whenever Joe would bring new guys, they'd probably parade them around the office. Everyone could take a look. Look at this guy, And so it was a different time. We talk about the Gold's Gym Venice being the heyday of bodybuilding and the golden era, and really, a lot of that had to do, mirrored what Joe Weider was doing, because with the magazine, and it was all hand in hand, and it was all out in California. Now, everything's dispersed because the internet is everywhere, and so it's a brave new world. It's not that it's better or worse; it's just different, and that's the way life is. You hear about the heyday of Hollywood when all the movies were made, right, in Hollywood out there in California. Yeah. And people talked about that being the heyday because it was sets. You didn't go anyplace. Everything was made right there. You saw everyone. You walked on the movie set. Every major star was there every day, and it was, I imagine it was similar to the way it was when bodybuilding was all centered in Venice, California, and then out in Woodland Hills, where Joe's offices were.
You know what? One of Joe's most famous quotes, because you keep using the word create, and he was a creator, was famous to me, at least, or stuck with me, is when WBF got started with Vince McMahon. So Vince, starts up and tells Joe, you got competition, and, signs up all these guys for money that they never dreamed they'd make, right? Because the contracts with Joe really started with the WBF. There was no WBF. Joe would be giving guys ads to sell.
Right.
So people were like, Joe, what are you going to do? And he said, I got the magazine. I'll create new champions.
Right. You've told me this before. Yeah. And he's right. I mean, he did.
He could care. He was not, it's like, no big deal. No big deal. I get the magazine. Think of the power of that. The magazine. I get the magazine. The magazine was the engine.
Right. And Vince McMahon was a formidable competitor.
Oh gosh, yeah. Joe could kill us. It's like, don't worry about it.
That's funny. Isn't that funny? I mean, think about Vince McMahon. I mean, had more money ostensibly than Joe did.
Yeah, of course.
It would have been interesting if it would have survived. If Vince didn't get involved in the whole steroid scandal that hit the WWE and Hulk Hogan and all that, it would have been interesting just to see what would have happened with that.
Who knows what happened to it?
I think it would have been. I think it would have been big money for a lot of bodybuilders. I think
so too.
I think Joe would have had to raise his game even more, come out of pocket. They would have, and it would have been a battle. It would have been like an arms war, and the people who would have benefited would have been the athletes, because Vince wanted the best, Joe wanted the best, and the money would have gone much higher and higher. Prize money would have gone up.
Vince McMahon pulled Ferrigno out of retirement. It's insane.
Yep,
it's insane.
That's a money thing. I'm sure he offered him a shitload of money.
Tons, must have been tons.
Right, because
Gary was getting 300.
Right. Ferrigno had to be $1 million.
Yeah, if Stridham was getting 300, Frigno, no, I don't want to compete. We'll give you $1 million. Okay, I'll compete. Because $1 million in 90. What year was that?
And the funny thing is, if Ferrigno would have stayed, I'm sure Joe threw a ridiculous amount of money at Ferrigno if he got him back. But if
Ferrigno did, Joe got him back.
Yeah, I know he did. I'm saying he must have thrown a ridiculous amount of money because if Ferrigno would have stayed, they probably would have made him the champion. Don't you think?
Of course.
Because they made no qualms about it. It was entertainment. It wasn't just bodybuilding. So, all right. Well. Hopefully people enjoyed this.
They could have got Sid.
They could have got Sid to announce it. Hopefully people enjoyed this little jaunt down memory lane here in bodybuilding. And I have to thank I can't remember his name, but the person who sent me that question about Stump the Jumbo about the 1994 Night of Champions, who won, because that sparked all these creative juices that we had going, and all these great stories came out that I didn't even know some of them, especially the Nasser stories. I think I know all my Nasser stuff. I encourage people to tell me Nasser stories that I never heard before because to me it's like finding lost archives, that I didn't know existed.
Dave, I will date you and me. Do you know when I made that payphone call to Bob Gruskin?
Mm-hmm.
I used my Sprint calling card. Do you know what a calling?
I remember.
Do you remember calling cards?
Yeah.
You put in like the 800 number for Sprint, and then you put in like 500 other numbers.
Well, if you used AT&T, it was a regular. You just used a regular phone number. But if you didn't, you had to put in like you said 4,000 numbers to use a different calling company, right? Because they had better rates, right? Sprint, remember that?
Yeah. And then you called. It was like cheap. And then,
what was the other one? Sprint and MCI. MCI. People don't know what the fuck we're talking about. Believe me. They have no clue, except our older listeners. They're laughing their asses off probably because they had the same beeper that we did attached to our belt buckle. So, all right, guys. Well, it's that time again. Remember, you got a nice long dose of Heavy Muscle Radio this week, so you guys should like it. With Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone. See you next week.